And in the end, if it had been Callum or somebody else who was going to get victimized, or even Matthew, then, you know, who was going to get in trouble, somebody whose parents could have bought them out, then I would have been rooting for Frankie to just not deal with it, you know, fine, let somebody else get in trouble for this. But because it's Alpha, because it's the poor kid who's there on a scholarship, who's going to lose his chance of going to college, she has to come forward no matter what. And
he's also the only one who would have let it continue. Like I do not see any of those other boys at that first meeting pretending that he knows what's going on and taking credit so immediately. He knows he has to.
Right, because he's so vulnerable.
Yeah.
So give us a pink tab.
Okay, so this is earlier on the same day, and it's a conversation that Alpha and Matthew and Frankie are having, and I just put a little pink tag every time Frankie said something that was just so spot on. So Alpha is proclaiming his opinions about what a real pizza is or whatever, and he has these very strong opinions about pizza, and he says that no fruit can be on a pizza, and Frankie says that tomato's a fruit, and you know, there's just this moment of like, okay, and then he says, well, a tomato is different, I mean this, that, and the other thing. No one is going to found a whole cuisine on a grape, he said, and Alpha says, what about wine? Like, just these little conversational moments where Frankie is winning. And she is pretty much the only girl who ever wins when talking to these boys, I think. And then I put a little pink tab on the next page when Alpha threw his cigarette butt out the window and pouted because Alpha, kind of like Matthew's hips rolling, there had been some earlier moments when Frankie pouted pretending to be the, you know, acting as like the pouty girl, but Alpha pouts and Matthew later on pouts, and I liked that little juxtaposition, you know.
That it's not just, oh, girls pout.
Right, boys pout too.
Yeah. That's true, because Frankie does occasionally use her body and her face. It's like, oh, I am Bunny Rabbit.
Yeah.
But so do the boys.
That's part of how she gets out of being expelled, because she's a sweet, nice-looking girl who's never gotten into trouble before. Who could possibly blame her?
They're not going to expel her.
Despite the really apparent burn on her arm.
Right.
Like, that should have been a huge sign to them.
And I mean, think about what she did, this manipulation that she managed to, you know, accomplish. It was really enormous.
Yeah.
But she's a sweet little girl.
Yeah.
The thing that's actually about, you know, reading out the pink tabs is that I think they're less interesting to talk about because they're so, some of them are so blatant. Like here I have, Matthew had called her harmless, and being with him made Frankie feel squashed into a box where she was expected to be sweet and sensitive, but not oversensitive, a box for young and pretty girls who were not as bright or powerful as their boyfriends, a box for people who were not forces to be reckoned with. Frankie wanted to be a force. I mean, I love those moments.
Yeah.